Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yep, thank you. I'm Lydia Lau. I'm here to present our work at LAK on deriving group profiles from social media. And this is part of the work we've done for the EU-funded Unreal project. The first author, Dr. Ammari, is the person who actually do all the hard technical stuff in data mining. And Vania Dimitrova is the scientific coordinator of this Unreal project. And me, I'm the lucky one standing here talking to you today. Right, so in this presentation, what I will do is, first of all, give you some background about this project so you can understand what motivated our team to tackle this problem in this particular way. In particular, we are very interested in the use of semantics, and we are marrying semantics with machine learning algorithms in this work. And then I'll talk in more detail about the technicality about how we actually derive group profiles from the social media. And then I'll conclude with the lessons we've learned and future challenges. We are halfway through this Unreal project, so we still have another 1.5 years to go. So what is Unreal? It stands for Immersive, Reflective, Experience-Based, Adaptive Learning. So, to cut it short, I'll use a diagram to illustrate our position. We are aiming for adult learners. So, adult learners is a group of our stakeholders. And at the workplace, they might need to further their development professionally in certain areas. And it's very common for people now to go on this kind of online training environment, or in our terminology, simulated learning environments. So they are not passive ones. They are very much interactive. They have certain story behind the scene, and it depends on how the user interacts with the system to actually get some direction where is the next place to go. And there are questions prompting you to reflect and this kind of learning techniques. Another group of stakeholders for Unreal is the trainers. We feel that while we are developing this kind of simulated learning environments, we need the trainer to be able to rapidly put in some kind of scaffolding, depending on the range of learners they are going to deal with. And the third group of stakeholders are the developers of the simulated learning environments. So these people, they need to collect a lot of content and plan out their storyboard in their environments, and that is very labor-intensive and very expensive. So we're thinking whether there are any ways to enable them to do this kind of tailoring very efficiently. So to choose a problem domain that will test us, we have chosen interpersonal communications as our learning domain. We chose it because it is one of the most important soft skills nowadays for adult learners at workplace. But what we have found, the problem is that in the current learning environments, there's quite often a disconnect between the learner learning stuff in these simulated environments and then go back to the workplace and then applying it. There might be all sorts of reasons why that is so, probably because the kind of scenarios they've dealt with in the simulated environments is not really what's happened at workplace, so they can't really see the link between them. So we think, okay, if that is an issue, how can we actually bring them closer together, the workplace experience with the experience in the learning environment? So that's the first problem we want to solve. Another problem, as I've alluded earlier, is for the simulator developers, how can they rapidly change and extend their content to cater for an increasing wider range of learners. So our solutions come with a package of sort of a three-pronged approach, if you like. The first is pedagogy, second is technology, and third is using a socio-technical approach. Because these are adult learners, we would like to use the self-regulated learning pedagogy to help these people to learn. So there is a phase where they will think about what are the things that I would like to learn, where am I at the moment, with or without the help of a mentor. And then while they're learning it, the system will sort of understand them a bit better, so they can guide that learner through the appropriate path as soon as they enter the environment. And then afterwards, they will then carry out some reflections and ideally linking with the real-world scenarios. Now, we find that for adult learners, apart from learning in a simulated environments, we also feel that a lot of our learning is done through talking to each other, sharing our own experiences with each other. We find that that is probably a more realistic way and a more fruitful way for adults to learn, so through sharing experiences. The traditional approach to get that kind of experiences will be going to interview people and do some sort of social scientist kind of data collection. And social media now offer us a rich resource of experiences on the internet. And we would like to capitalize on that and using technologies to bridge the gap between the simulated learning environments and the workplace. And obviously that has got a lot of its own problem, and that's why we're doing what we are doing for this work, and I'll tell you a bit more. Now, I've just given you the overview of the Unreal project. It's got a huge problem, needing a lot of skill sets, and we are not tackling all of those. So we have got 7 partners in this EU project, and the first 5 are academic institutions doing the technical and the pedagogical and the social technical stuff. And the final 2 partners, they are SMEs, developing simulated learning environments. So that's where we draw their inspirations from. So at least we are very excited about the potential of this social media, because we see them as real people or virtual people leaving digital traces in this internet world. So we want to tap into them. We know that there are different kinds of social spaces. Twitter, YouTube, they are examples of open social spaces. Anybody can go there. You're not quite sure the people who say who they are really who they are. On the other hand, increasingly there are also closed social spaces where memberships are controlled, so you know the kind of people in there. So we are actually using both environments to inform our approaches. So we need to think about the pipeline from getting the very raw data from this noisy social world to right through to presenting something that are very useful for learning, in particular their experiences. So what we do is we have to put some sensors out, we have to have somewhere to collect the relevant content. We then use the small collections to tease out what are the main concepts. So in our example, it will be something relevant to interpersonal communications. And then we use the ontologies plus some external ontologies to guide the noise filtration process. So ended up with some cleaner data for us to work on. And we then automate the process of adding semantics to those clean comments so that we can query them. We can then build applications on those to have a systematic way to browse through the contents. Have got some scaffolds in there. We can use the information we've got to do group profiling and also to look at viewpoints, for example. And we call this smart social spaces. It's not noisy and unstructured. We want to organize them, inject some smartness for our purpose. So for this talk, we are not going to use all those things. What we do is we just focus on YouTube as our open social media. And, well, we have video, but then, oh dear, I'm really behind. And then we have, we are actually using the comments for our experiences. And we have our own in-house controlled YouTube-like environments to do our supervised machine learning. So we have got a group of experts to comment on it, and we extract some relevant comments there. So what we have in here are two kind of services. One is noise filtration plus using ontologies plus supervised machine learning. And then the next, we then do some classifications to do group profiling. And that is very similar to the previous talk, using clustering and so on. And that is unsupervised machine learning. And we looked at job interview videos, and we particularly focus on non-verbal communications. So I have to go through this very quickly. Basically, input, noisy comments, output, clean comments. And we can know who are the contributors of those comments. Okay, so these are the nitty-gritty of the machine learning. So from the public comments, we have got the training corpus with term and comments matrix. We use our own controlled environment to analyze it and get a semantically enriched bag of words, because we use some external ontologies like WordNet, Sumo, etc., to tease out the nonverbal communication concepts. And then we use it to do some scoring so that we can see the comments, and when we have scores, and we have got a threshold above which they are clean comments we use, and then we will then go and sort of mark whether they're okay or not okay for our experiences. So these are just some examples. So we find that the threshold 4 or 5 would be okay. And then the last one, which is really not useful experience, so that's why it's got such a low score. So those, you can see we have got concepts that we extract and calculate the scores. After we've got some relevant comments, then we will go and sort out using the YouTube APIs to get the user profiles. So we know their gender, we know the age group, and so on. And we use the cluster-based group profile to look at roughly what kind of concepts come from what kind of people with what kind of background and age group, and so on. We also do another kind of group profile, which is demographical based. So we can actually ask questions like, what are the most common concepts that female 40 to 50-year group will be talking about when they talk about job interviews? So we know that we have this system to do this kind of thing. Okay, I need to stop now. So we have done an experiment, and we use 17 videos, and this is the kind of spread, and we have got some sample comments that you can look at from the paper, and demographic output. We can then sort of say, well, okay, Great Britain seems not to be interested in money. Okay, so I've flipped through all these sample output, which you can actually see from the paper, so you can read them. So the lessons learned. So we can do it we know that. But on the noise filtration, there are issues, for example, relevant to the previous talk is, where should we pitch the threshold? Why 4 and not 6 and so on? And what is relevant and what is inappropriate comments? Because at one stage, we were thinking of whether we should filter out the swear words. But then somebody said, well, swear words sometimes actually indicate emotions. So if you take that out, we might not really know, about the context. And there are a lot of promotional content on YouTube. Can we detect that automatically a bit more efficiently? In terms of potential of group profiles, we did try with some real trainers, and they particularly like the authentic comments. That's the 1 plus points. However, they want to know within a group, are there actually different viewpoints? How many of them are from people who are very experienced interviewers, for example? So for future work, we want to increase the use of semantics. We want to increase the group profiling, do more experiments. We know that the YouTube demographic data are not very reliable. Can we get different sources to actually give us a more accurate picture? I'm sorry to overrun.
I'm sorry I stole you more than 5 minutes because I thought you were in the short paper format and you're in the long paper format. But through the questions, we will...
So you have more paper?
We should give you a chance to elaborate on the transparencies that you more or less skipped through. Sorry for that.
Oh, it's okay.
I would also do my best if we don't have other questions to help you going back to these important transparencies. Yeah. Any questions?
If you want me to go back to a particular slide, then let me know.
I think particularly the group profiles themselves are very important. What kind of information was really in the group profiles?
Yeah.
Because there was this point of the groups. First, when you introduced them, they were defined demographically. I mean, in demographic terms, right?
Do you want me to?
But I mean, this is not the important thing about the groups, the demographic information.
No. Okay. I'll give you. Okay. So probably this is the place where I started really skipping through. So that's what you're saying. How can group profiles help us in our context to help the training professional to identify user needs? And then can we actually derive learning domain concepts that we can augment learners' model? I think that if I can sort of go back to that, because one of the problem of learner model is cold start problem. So we are thinking that by using this kind of group profiles, we can actually sort of like stereotyping the learner. So when the learner come into the simulated learning environments, they don't have complete blank page. We have a stereotypical group profile that we can use to bootstrap that learner model. So, okay. So the kind of group profile at the moment, we only looked at the gender, and we look at the age group. So from there, you can see that the most populated age group is 21 to 30. And then most people contributing are from United States and UK, with Turkey just before Canada for some reason. Now, this might be the bit that you're asking about. So these are the things that we have in mind. So for this particular group, this is the third largest group, so quite a sizable group of people. 9% of the population of this YouTube environment. 36 authors are involved. So from there, we have got these kind of concepts like anxious and nervous. Sometimes we do have concepts that, no, they're really obvious and not particularly useful. And then if you looked at the sample author comments, for example, the second one, I've only worked at one place for 1.5 years, been out of job for 3.5 years. and I'm pretty much have no experience. Any tips how I can get a job? And the next one is I've never had a job interview before. I'm kind of nervous and so on. So this just shows you this group of people. They are not having a lot of job experience, and they are very nervous before they go into a job interview. So for a trainer, they can actually sense are there some major group issues that they can start planning about how to solve that particular group of learners. So have I sort of answered your questions? So, because these are the kind of group profiles which are cluster-based. Demographic-based, so that is limited by what we can get from the YouTube API. So the location, so the people who said they are from Great Britain or Canada. So for this one, we can actually extract for this group what are the common concepts appear in their YouTube comments. And then these are for the US, and these are from Asia. So you can then quickly maybe comparing the concepts. If you want to see is there any effect on the different culture, then you can see, well, as I've sort of picked up, money seems to appear both in the US and Asia, but it doesn't appear in GB. And eye contact, for some places like Great Britain, is eye contact, whereas the others, they are not particularly bothered about eye contact, for example. Okay. Okay.
I have another question concerning the scaffolding, because you said scaffolding was one of your rationales.
Yeah.
How about scaffolding?
I think scaffolding is not particularly relating to this particular group profiling work. It's more related with using the ontologies and using the semantic query. We can actually say, well, okay, if you are interested in eye contact, you're interested in so body language, have you thought about handshaking as well? So we can use the ontology to inform what other concepts you might like to look at while you are looking at experiences. Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.